This section, we're going to have a look at details of the scheme. So we're going to have an idea of what the typical kind of scheme is for a development scheme, kind of like the different departments you can apply to, what support you've got, and chartership issues. So not all graduate schemes are the same, not all apprenticeship schemes are the same, not all internships are the same. Typically, if you're there for, say, a year's period, you might do 2 6-month placements, or you might do 4 3-month placements. If you're there for 2 years, it's normally kind of 4 6-month placements, but it depends on how many departments the company wants you to get round and how much different experience you've got. So a graduate scheme typically is 2 years, and that will probably be 4 6-month placements. An apprenticeship scheme tends to be longer. However, they want apprentices to work in all different departments. So you will probably be on 3-month placements there, with maybe your last 3, 6, 9-month placement. Again, there's no right or wrong answer to these things. But just be aware of what you're applying to, because it might be a case if you spend your entire 2 years just working in this one department, you might be expected to work all over different departments. You might be expected to do mostly in a home department, maybe one placement outside. And that's, again, a personal thing. If you're like, this is what I want to do, I want to work here, I don't want to go elsewhere, that structure will matter to you. There's also things around, are you actually doing real work? Are you going to be set a problem that is a true problem to work on? Or are you going to be set just a set of textbook questions? It's worth also knowing what kind of training you're going to do. We discussed this briefly in the last one. The large companies tend to have a formal set of training. You will be like presentation, negotiation, all sorts of different stuff, alongside your technical training, obviously. But you'll have more of a whole-rounded development. Small companies might not have any training at all, particularly in startups. It's quite difficult to get training, and you might be expected to go to things like meetups in your own time in the evening to get the skills that you need. So, again, no right or wrong, just be aware of what you're applying to and whether it fits for you. So what departments to apply to is an interesting thing. Some companies you just apply to the company and they decide which department you go to. Some companies you need to apply to a specific department. Sometimes you need to apply to 3 departments on your application form. Sometimes it's 1. Just read what it tells you to do and follow that guidance. If you do apply to a company that, say, you have your main department and 2 backup departments to apply to, if you get through to interview, just be sure you know why you applied to these departments, because you could well be asked that and you want a good answer there. Again, doesn't matter, it's what department seems the right one for you. And that's going to be a different answer to different people. Read what they do, see if the technical work makes you go, yeah, that's something that I want to do, then that's the right department for you. Make sure you have a look at the support that you get. Larger companies tend to be more formalised. You will probably get a buddy, so that's someone maybe just off the graduate scheme or just off the apprenticeship scheme. And that's someone that you can kind of go to ask informal questions. You will probably get a mentor, so that's someone more senior in a similar technical area to you that will be able to mentor you through. Again, smaller companies, this might happen, but it might be less formal. Startups, again, it's more difficult to do that kind of thing. So be aware of the support that you get. You can get this support outside of the company, so it's not the be-all and end-all if the company doesn't do it. And it might not be something you care about. You might not care whether you're going into a department with 20 people of a similar age to you. When I started in the defence industry, I was one of about 3 people in my department under the age of 55. And actually that didn't matter to me. And also actually that is a large company, so there is a support network from outside of your department. So just have an idea of what you're applying to and see whether it works for you. So chartership is an interesting thing. It is actually quite important to get your chartership, particularly in the engineering world. And if you're working with Europe, it's super important to get chartered. It genuinely makes a difference. I know that sounds a bit daft, but it does. Companies can support your chartership in different ways. So if you have applied to a formal scheme, they might well actually be accredited. So your apprenticeship, normally it's just apprenticeship and graduate training that will be accredited. The year in industry, internships and stuff, summer placement tend to be too short a time and not with the right qualifications. So see whether it's something that is actually approved. So you'll be able to find out whether this scheme is approved by the kind of major engineering chartership companies. The company itself might have a specific setup to help you with chartership as well. So you should be able to ask this and see if the company has a culture of getting chartered. So this is actually slightly easier in a large company because there's more people. Smaller companies, less people, there tend to be less people chartered, and it's a bit less of a thing. And particularly in startups, it's kind of relatively rare. But it doesn't mean that you can't do it. So if this is something that you want to go for, just see what kind of support you have on your technical scheme. And as I said, it's not the end of the world if you have zero support in chartership and you actually want to get chartership. You can do that when you've met the requirements. Just something to be aware of. So the conclusions for this one is basically do your homework, find out about the structure of the scheme, work out what department you want to work in and how you actually apply to that company. Decide the kind of support that you want to get from the company, work out what's important for you, and the same with chartership. Again, it's not you need to go through and tick that you get this list of support from your company, because it's very individual. It's about working out what support you want and making sure it's there for you in the companies that you're applying to. Okay, so the next section to move on to is looking at your financial reward, because we are doing this in the end as a job.